Right. Is it visible?
It is, yes. That's fine.
Yeah, yeah.
Perfect. Thank you. So, thank you everyone for attending the session. I'm sorry, I will have to improvise a bit. So, as Ian already said, it was unfortunately Vanessa had some private issues to take care of, so I'll be standing in for her. My presentation skills are not nearly as good as her, but in the end, I hope I'll be able to answer all the questions that you have. So, what we have here is is a new way to sell a nonstop. So we have been looking into how to expand the nonstop install base and basically how to bring nonstop to new customers. And somehow we decided that a naked nonstop is not really something that most customers go for these days. So we decided to wrap it into a full Greenlake product together with the software. And with the Greenlake and GMS people helping in driving this as a service offering towards the customers. This was announced by Antonio Neri and on his behalf Keith White in summer 21. And yeah, so we're building this. This is in the final incubation phase, as we say. So yeah, we're already actively discussing it with customers and discussing the first trials to go to market. That said, this solution is nothing new. What's new is the way we are selling it. So basically, as a whole, HPE is taking the full responsibility for the full system, as opposed to having already several customers or quite a few customers in the world who are using this solution on nonstop and are very happy about it. But we'll come to that a bit later. So as HPE is going, putting their strategic focus on what they call the edge to cloud, or basically as a service company, we are looking also to be more present with our customers and with our partners on a longer term, not just selling off a couple of boxes and turning around and forgetting the customer for the next 5 years. It's really a full commitment towards the customer that we help him and engage him on a continuous basis. And this is where Greenlake is going. I think also that personally that this is the way that most IT companies will have to develop in the future. This old adage of we sell boxes every 5 years and hope we manage to get the best price, I don't think this will work. So another important factor here is Lucys. Lucys is a mid-sized company, you could say, which is very aggressive in the market. And one thing we always love to say is that Lucys has 4 out of the 6 largest banks in the world as customers, where 4 of the largest 10s are Chinese. So of the other 6, 4 are Lucys customers and using Lucys for their payments. They're very aggressive, very agile, and yeah, it's easy to work with them. Now, what is this payments? It's basically what we call a complete solution via HPE Greenlake. So you have a software stack, the infrastructure. It can be run on premises with the customer. It can be run off premises. HPE can organize the data center, or we can put it in a data center of your convenience. We're very flexible on that. There are also lots of experts from HPE partners and from Lucys who will seek to integrate this in a complete deal, in a complete solution. Why we emphasize this is because there's often a risk of failing with solutions like these. People fail in the data center, people fail to attain the necessary certifications for financial solutions. There are often failures in migration, etc., etc., etc. And often you will see that these failings come because of a lack of coordination between different vendors. Here you get everything from one hand, and it's basically us taking the full responsibility for the implementation of the product on the one hand, and later for running and operating this whole solution as well. And this is something that's currently unique in the market. There are some metrics, and these metrics are based on different studies, etc. So I won't go into details. This presentation will be available for download at a later time. Now, when we talk Greenlake, Greenlake has an interesting proposal. Let's say this is the typical demand for storage or compute capacity. And this is not related only to the payments world. It's related to the general IT world. So you have a steady rising demand. What you usually do is you buy hardware for 5 years, 3 years, 7 years upfront in different steps. In the Americas, it's a bit, usually a bit more, how to say it, it's easier to buy new hardware. I see many European countries and many public sector customers have to plan for several years ahead. So they must overbuy and over provision their hardware, which comes at a huge cost. Sorry. So what we do, we create a buffer basically. What I missed to say. What you are seeing now, the purple line, this is the line of your real demand, and within a Greenlake payment, what is actually normally being paid. So instead of over provisioning, instead of the customer over provisioning, we take care that he's always served and always has enough capacity on-prem or off-prem, and which would be the gray line in this case. And here where the savings are. And this can be very, very significant, especially if you have new projects, if you have a rather unpredictable utilization curve, bringing in new systems, or if your company is growing, or even if it's not growing, it will bring savings as we take the risk of the buffer, which is ahead of the demand. And we always have enough capacity in on-premise. As you can see, this purple line goes above the usually purchased capacity. So you will never have a bottleneck in your organization. Now, this is the traditional, or how we call it, traditional Greenlake offering. And this is now also coming to the regular nonstop. It will take a while. It's now being rolled out slowly. So we're now working with capacity on demand. It's already implemented with some customers. So we will, in the next phase, also be able to ramp up or ramp down depending on the customer's requirements. And there's another thing. Of course, we cannot make it, how to say it, we have to have a minimum reserve level that is being invoiced to the customer. And this reserve level is usually relatively low, maybe 80%, or sometimes even much lower, depending on the usage scenario of the customer. But we can see rarely the customers going below this reserve level threshold. So they're mostly on the safe side. Now, that was the Greenlake side. From the software side, the Lucis payment solution, which builds in addition on top of the Greenlake service, is fully compliant with most or all FSI regulations. So PCI, UDSS, PCI, different PCI regulations. Sorry, I can't get them now directly. And basically, it helps in the compliance, in pursuing the compliance for the customer, together with the nonstop platform, with the data center, and the whole organization of the service structure. The Lucis software is based on a microservice technology, which also helps that they can implement changes very, very fast compared to other competitive products. So you're basically implementing changes on the run without having to alter the other modules or other services of your software. And this is relatively unique in the market at this moment. There are many other smaller vendors who are trying this same approach, or going the same approach, but they're barely visible on the market due to other deficiencies. This also means that you can add very easily new carding schemes, new loyalty schemes. So you can basically alter and adjust your system on the run without the need to any for stopping any current systems for maintenance. So basically, it's fully embracing the non-stop philosophy of always on and always available. One also important factor is the agile DevOps. Excuse me. Now, normally you would say, okay, they're a software developer. I don't care about their own or how they develop software. But if you have a product, if you have a infrastructure, if you have a whole team which is building a new product, being agile helps a lot, because as the requirements change during the implementation of your new product, as new regulations come in, or as maybe some roadblocks come in along the path, if you have in your team an agile software development engineer who is taking care of the or being the interface to an agile DevOps team, you can easily and fast and adapt your system, as opposed to the old waterfall scheme where you have to design everything, and if any changes come to the project, you have to basically redesign from scratch. So it helps to shorten the time to market for basically all the products that are based on Lucis and the Lucis software. And one more thing is the easy integration into basically any payments environment. What Lucis has is a very good knowledge of all the standard protocols and the different implementations on the market of various protocols. So they're pretty much ready to integrate with any existing environment and any existing systems which a customer has. So after Greenlake and Lucis, now let's come to the HPE nonstop infrastructure. I think everybody here is familiar with nonstop, so we don't really have to advertise a lot, but we know that we have a continuous operation, and we can we can deliver really good SLAs, which are required for the various regulatory schemes of the customers. So if you run an alternative operating system, you always run the risk of failings, failovers, of transactions not being completed in time, etc. It's something that where nonstop takes a lot of the risk on the customer side. It's fully integrated in a converged system from HPE, which is also important because you're getting everything from one vendor. There's no multi-vendor approach here. There's no finger pointing if anything goes wrong. Imagine some driver or some firmware not working together with from different vendors. And I had this also. I saw this several times in my career. It's a pretty bad thing. Also, there's a choice between a virtual and a physical system, which is also relatively new here. So depending on the situation of the customer, we can choose to have a fully virtualized system for this task, which would mean that it's much more flexible to move the system from one data center to the other. As we have seen with Brexit, for example, there are scenarios where you really want to be flexible into moving your platform, your data. You don't know what will happen in 2, 3, 4, or 5 years. Why it's also important is that the stickiness of such a system is approximately 20 years. So if a customer signs on to such a system, he will use it for the next 20 years. And as the landscape and the political landscape and the economic landscape in Europe changes, it does make sense to have this flexibility to move a system very fast from one location to the other. Yeah, the no unplanned downtime, linear scalability, etc. This is all integral part of our beloved nonstop. Now, when it comes to the data center hosting, this is also one part of our offering. We can take it on premises with the customer, off premises, as we already said, either virtualized or converged. And we take care of securing the premises. So we have seen in the EMEA region, there are several customers who do have nonstop, but their location is not compliant to regulatory demands. They usually get it waived from one year to another, but in general, it's very difficult to get any kind of certification in such locations. And we have seen this problem, and we offer alternatives where we take the responsibility for hosting all these systems in an environment which will then allow the whole system to be, for example, PCI DSS certified. So yeah, our experts. We really have decades of experience, and this is coming from the tandem side, not an exaggeration. So the solution is also, of course, shaped to the needs of the market and the customers, as opposed to the classical HPE. Yeah, let's try something and see how the market reacts. No, here we really had conversations with the partners, with the customers, how they would like to see it, how they would like the whole scheme to run. And this is how we designed the solution. And we have a worldwide follow the sun support on one hand, and we can also offer 24/7 local support depending on which country or which region is required. So your key advantages, I'm going to read this off. Single or multi-tenant. That's an interesting proposition because we see that many payment processors are trying to divide their businesses. Many retailers who also we see as potential customers also have multiple supermarket schemes, loyalty card schemes, etc., and they would like to have this divided. So with one system, one nonstop, you can have multiple tenants on the same running on the same system. You can scale up and down. And even though Greenlake directly might not support scaling up and down, we do scale up and down based on the software licensing and generally on the licensing and support. So if you don't need your hardware, if you don't need a large chunk of your system, we can take it down and keep it on a reserve status. We take care of your continuous processing. There's no planned or unplanned downtime. Of course, you can reduce costs and make them transparent. What is also one interesting thing here, which I didn't mention, is that we envision a payment or how to say invoicing based on the number of transactions, not necessarily on the hardware being used or the capacity being used. So this is also a new thing which will come and which is already being offered to customers. So of course, secure and compliant. Fraud detection and tokenizations are part of this service. There are many synchronization mechanisms depending on what are the needs of the customers, like active-active, active-passive. And we don't need to talk about technical stuff anymore with the customer. So the customer comes to us and has his business needs, not his technical needs. Everything that happens in the background is being done by HPE and the HPE partners. Anyways, that will be it for me. I know it was a bit of a run through. I'm obviously not Vanessa Kaup, but please, for any questions, you can call Vanessa Kaup at any time, contact her, or contact me. I will also put my my email address and my phone into this presentation before uploading. So thank you very much.
We've also got David McLeod on the line. So if anyone's got any questions about the application per se, we have an expert for that as well.
Yeah, so we're open for questions. Thank you.
They're all shy.
We're already running late.
Okay, John, I think we can stop sharing. There's no questions, and